Desmos Graphing Calculator is a really handy online tool. It's free and you can also use it on your cell phones and download the app. We're going to use it today for our culminating activity for the linear relations units for all of the graphing and equations of straight lines stuff that we learned earlier in the quadmaster. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to graph a straight line in Desmos. At the bottom we have a whole bunch of things available to us to type in whatever we need. So let's start with a simple equation of a straight line like y equals 2x plus 5. Okay, so there's our line. It was graphing it as we went along. Now, there's also a really neat feature on Desmos, and we're going to use that feature for this activity. If you want to limit the length of the line, then we do that by telling Desmos that we want only a certain domain, which is the x values that we want to use, or range, which is the y values that we want to use. So let's say that I only wanted this line between this point and this point. So at, well, that's not a really good point for me to have chosen, is it? It's hard to say what that is. Let's choose this one. So that point would be -2 and 1. And this point would be 0 and 5. So I'm going to ask Desmos to change this graph. I'm going to go back down to the bottom menu here, and I'm going to use the keyboard option using the ABC button. And that should bring up a menu. There we go, of some different choices. And the choice that we want to choose is this kind of squiggly bracket here. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to ask Desmos to limit the length of this line. We want to tell it that we want to start at the x value of -2 and, and finish at the x value of 0. And so how we do that is we just type in zero. Oops, sorry, that should be in there. Okay, so 0 as the bottom value. Oh, sorry, -2 as the lower value. And then we're going to use the greater than or equal sign, and then we're going to put in x and another one of those greater than or equal signs, and then we're going to put in 0. And so what we've told it is that we only want to graph this line between the values of x equals 2 and x equals 0. We could have also said between y equals 1 and y equals 5, and that would have worked as well. And you notice how now Desmos has shortened the length of the line so that it's just between those values. So let's try another example. And this time what I want to do is I'm going to graph a line, and this line is going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to put in y equals 3, and you can see that we got the horizontal blue line on the screen. So let's say I only want to graph this line between the values of x equals 5 and x equals 10. So between here and here. And so I would go back to the equation of the line that I've just typed in, and I'm going to bring up the menu again to choose those squiggly brackets, and I want to go between 5 and 10 on the x-axis. So I'm going to type in 5 as my lowest number, then the greater than or equal sign, and this time I want x values to be in between 5 and 10. Oops, not 11, 10. Okay. So now that I've told it that, you go back over and have a look at what Desmos has graphed, and it's shortened the length of that line for us so that it only shows it between x equals 5 and x equals 10. So one more quick example, and then I think you're going to be ready to try the assignment. This time I'm going to type in a vertical line, so I'm going to type in something like x equals negative 6. And we've got a nice green up and down straight line over on the left-hand side of our grid. And this time I'm going to cut off the line between the values of the x-axis and y equals 5. So on the x-axis, y is 0, and on at the value where y equals 5, we're going to use y equals 5. And so this time, when we type in the restrictions, we are going to actually use restrictions on the y value. So we're going to say that we only want to do this between the values of y equals 0 up to 5. There we go. And so now Desmos has shortened the length of our line to follow our instructions and just graph it between y equals 0 and y equals 5. We can't use x values there because the x values are the same all the time. So in the next activity, you're going to use this idea and you're going to graph several lines after you've figured out their equations. And when you're done, you're going to send me a screenshot or you're going to contact me on Zoom to share your screen with me and show me what you have drawn on the grid with all 16 lines complete.